Are you ready for phenomenal thought leadership from the most well-respected leaders in industry? Join us for stellar conversations and sound advice from trailblazers who have a passion for excellence. Learn best practices that will catapult the culture of your company into a new level of greatness. Welcome to Great Companies, Great Leaders. Your host is Christine Gannon. Welcome to another edition of Great Companies, Great Leaders. I'm your host, Christine Gannon, the CEO of Brightworks Consulting, and I am super honored to have with us today Wendy McClellan. Wendy, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. So a little bit about Wendy before we get started. Wendy's the founder and CEO of Structure for Success, which is an HR consulting firm that puts the human back in HR and helps business owners realize that human resources doesn't have to suck. I love that. Structure for Success works with businesses that don't have their own HR team, which there are a lot of small businesses that don't, right?
Correct.
Assisting them with hiring, employee handbooks, personalized support to help them build a strong team and a business. She's passionate about creating a respectful relationship between the business owner and the employees. With more than 25 years experience in executive leadership, Wendy's forte is hiring the right person for the right job and turning employees into managers, managers into leaders, and business owners, including solopreneurs, into CEOs. She removes the uncertainty from the workplace and believes that strong relationships and communication are the keys to successful leadership. So true. Wendy speaks regularly on leadership, communication, personal empowerment, employee support, and business development. She's a Kolbe-certified consultant and an instructor at ASU's Lodestar Center. Wendy, the powerhouse, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. It always is weird to hear your bio. I'm glad somebody else writes it.
It is fun though. It's like, really? So tell us where you're zooming in from today.
I am in my office in Scottsdale, Arizona today.
Very cool. And it's still nice. It's starting to warm up, but it's still nice.
Yes, it's not quite there yet, and I'll take it.
So Wendy and I had an opportunity recently to serve on a panel for Grand Canyon University for their honors college, a conference that they were hosting with a group of amazing students. And we connected. I started my career in HR and we had a great panel discussion. And so I just thought it would be fun, Wendy, to have you on the show and talk a little bit about how did you get started? Can you share with our audience your journey and what led you to what you're doing today?
Sure. So way back in the early 90s, I fell into the mortgage career. And I took to it right away. I loved it. So started as a processor and worked my way up in the mortgage field. I eventually became a VP at a mortgage insurance company. And so I was the executive that they brought in to set up the offices. So I did everything from, I either had to fix it or I had to set it up. So I did everything from picking the carpet color to hiring everybody to training to employee development, all of that fun stuff. And eventually I had 12 offices across the country and 4,000 employees. So I was busy.
Yes.
And then there was this little thing called the bubble and it burst. And so I took the opportunity and I went back to school, finished my degrees because I'd been going to night school. So I finished up my degrees and then like everybody else in the mortgage field, we got sucked back in. And about 8-9 years ago, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need a company that has integrity, that's authentic, that energizes me, and this just doesn't. So I decided I had to open my own, and that's how Structure for Success was born. I use my knowledge and my experience, and I customize it for small business owners and give them the HR support that we all took for granted when we were in the corporate world.
Right. Absolutely. And I don't think people understand that when they start their own organization or they have a small business, the critical role that HR plays.
No, I don't think they do. And anytime somebody says HR, you automatically think that there's a problem.
Right.
So you don't realize that the development and the little things and the no, you can't wear flip-flops to work. All of that is HR.
Or no,
It's a
you can't
huge
say that.
umbrella.
You
Yes.
can't say that. So true. So true. And HR has shifted a lot, especially during COVID. We are asking not only our HR leaders, but our leaders of organizations to pivot and do so much more and to work with a whole lot of ambiguity that, we've never been through a pandemic. So we're kind of paving this pathway as we go. What are your thoughts for leaders as they try to navigate this time?
I think I think that what leaders learned this year, there's a lot of things that we learned, right? And I think one of the most important things is that there is a difference between management and leadership. But without management skills, you cannot be a leader. So they really had, and I always say if I ever hear the word pivot again, it'll be too soon. But they really did have to pivot. You had to change your entire mindset. And I think the leaders that really thrived were the ones that practice servant leadership.
Hmm.
They make it about their people. They listen. They're curious. They don't necessarily do everything their employees say, but they're willing to listen and compromise. Because what a lot of business owners that I work with are struggling with understanding is they're used to just being able to walk by their cube and see that they're working. So they're struggling with the trust issues, right? So they're struggling with that, and they didn't quite understand that their business invaded their employees' safe space.
That is such an important point. I never thought about it that way. Say that again.
So the business invaded the employee's safe space. So we always preach, right? Keep your personal life at home and don't bring it into the office. Well, if you're sitting at your dining room table with a 4-year-old running around trying to work on that spreadsheet or whatever you're doing, the lines became very, very blurred, if not completely erased.
Right.
So I work with business owners who are like, I said, well, is she getting it done? Yeah, but not till 4 o'clock in the morning. Well, if she's not calling a client at 4 o'clock in the morning, that's okay.
Right.
So really
Right.
understanding that 9 to 5 mentality doesn't exist anymore, because a 3-year-old does not understand that when mommy or daddy is home, they are not there for them.
Right. Right. Exactly. That's such a change, isn't it? It really is a change. And we know that women are bearing the brunt of this a lot more than men. And we know that we have a ways to go in our culture to shift, maybe, and not in all cases, because I know a lot of families that are doing it really well, where the husband and the wife or the partners are taking equal time and equal responsibility to make it happen. But I do know that women are getting burnt out. And so yeah, it's interesting. I think we've asked our leaders to make such a significant change overnight, but in most cases, to your point, they're doing it. They just have to shift their thinking that these remote employees, it's okay if they got it done at 4 a.m. as long as they met the deadline and nothing suffered. The business didn't blow up.
Exactly. And they're so used to seeing, walking by the cube and so I get the complaints that, oh, all they're doing is talking. Now I get the complaints that, well, she calls me back, but it's 10 minutes later. I can't get an immediate response. And it's kind of like, she called you 10 minutes later, but the kids were screaming in the background, she called you back.
Right.
So
Right. Yep.
it's
Yeah.
it's such a balancing act for everyone. And like you said, we've never been through this before. So we were learning on the fly. It was just being curious and figuring out how we can support each other.
So let's keep on that topic, but I want to shift just a little bit and talk about culture, because that's going to change as offices start to reopen and we have hybrid opportunities, or we have everyone back in the office. Some companies are going to keep part of their office staff remote. Talk to me a little bit about culture and your thoughts around culture and why it's so important.
Well, I work with small business owners on this all the time. What a lot of them forget, it's not that they don't realize it because they've all been told, but what they forget is that they dictate the culture.
So true.
So if they are manic, or if they're all about money, 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 make the sale, hurry up, do this, I need this, which is completely understandable given this last year. There were so many businesses that didn't know how they were going to pay the rent with everybody not there, and the revenue was down, and they didn't have
Mhm.
customers, whatever the case is. The employees pick up on that. That is now the culture. It becomes about the sale. It becomes about their money. It no longer is about customer service or that respectful relationship between the employers and the employees. So I have this conversation all the time, which is you have to pull back and look at it from another perspective. Do you want your clients to think that it's just about the sale? You don't care about them, because more than anything now, um, customer service is important. People want to be
Absolutely.
heard. People need help. So that needs to become about that. And I think they don't, if the employer and the customer too doesn't feel as though that the if the employee doesn't feel as though the employer has their best interest at heart or has the shared values, they're going to leave.
Right.
So there's so many businesses that I talk to that can't keep employees because their culture has evolved to one of panic instead of one of collaboration.
Great point.
So it's really refocusing on being solution based and figuring out what your, instead of a mission statement, what your value statement is,
Right.
and work with that instead. And then that can
Yeah.
help adjust the cultures.
And developing that roadmap as we come out of this pandemic, really developing that roadmap to shape the culture into one that's employee driven or more employee centric versus, I mean, honestly, if you don't have the people, you won't have the customers or the clients. So if you don't have talent and human capital that is thriving, they'll be there, but maybe not for long. So no, I think you raised some really good points. We have asked leaders always, and we know we ask it of ourselves to do a heck of a lot. And so it's a lot of pressure and a lot of responsibility. And most of us thrive on that. And some of us survive. But what are your thoughts on things that leaders should do for themselves? What do you think are key critical elements that leaders really need to do?
I think this is such an important question. And it's one that has been coming up a lot lately. I think it's been coming up more now than it did in the beginning of the pandemic a year ago. It's People are tired.
Right.
People are scared. People are tired of living in that fear. And now we're changing again. So just as everybody gets used to everything, it's changing again. And so everybody's trying to change and evolve, so a lot of the conversations I'm having now are, what are you doing for you? So as far as and I'm always pushing, you have to figure out what self-care works for you.
Right.
So if you say family first, what are you doing to put family first? Are you unplugging over the weekend? I mean, there was a couple of my clients just this week that said I had to take social media off my work email off my phone.
Right.
They're like, it's literally just a phone now. It's kind of boring. What am I,
Wow.
But they had to do that to be able to unplug, because you're not going to be your best self and
Right.
be there for your clients or bring in the revenue or whatever it is you're trying to do if you're not your best self.
Right.
So if you need permission to do that, put it on your calendar,
Right.
because you'd never ever cancel on a client. So treat yourself as though you were the most important client that you have.
That is such great advice, really, because it goes back to that really old cliche, which is if you don't put your oxygen mask on first, you're not going to help anyone. You're not going to
Exactly.
be, you can't lead anyone if you're not breathing. So take care of yourself. The other thing that I heard that was interesting, I was listening to a podcast by Dave Hollis, And he was reminding us that there are a lot of people that put out a prescription for self-care for leaders, but you really can't lift it like a recipe and just implement it because we're each unique. To
Mhm.
your point, we have to do what works for us in our situation. I don't have a 2-year-old running around at home, but one of my colleagues does. And so her self care and her regrouping and rejuvenating looks very different than mine because her time looks different. But so we can't lift and implement, but we can craft something so that we do take care of ourselves, because to your point, we can't do it well if we're not doing well.
No, we absolutely cannot. And I think it's more essential now than anything. I heard two interesting things a couple weeks ago. One of them is to give yourself a break, because a 40-hour work week was not created thinking that you had to take care of everything at home as well. It was created thinking that there was a wife at home taking care of everything, the kids. So the 40-hour work week just doesn't work with what's going on right now.
Right.
And the other thing is that it's important that burnout now is happening more than it was in the beginning, and you have to really acknowledge that it's there. Powering through it, which I don't know about you, but that was always my solution to everything, was I'm just going to power through. This will go away. This will do that.
Right.
You can't do that anymore. You have to be able to step back and say, I need this time, whatever that looks like, even if it's just 5 minutes in the morning by yourself. But like you said, it's going to look different for everybody, but you need to figure that out and customize it for you and then make it a priority.
Right. It's not about being a victim, right? It's about
Right.
thinking through, what do I need? Yes, it's hard. It's just hard. Like Zooms are back to back because it's different when we're in the office, right? We're in an office and we take 5 minutes to chit chat when we're getting coffee, or we walk to another office. We don't do that. I jump from a Zoom to a Zoom. So what I've started doing for myself is building in time in between, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes,
Mhm.
just so I can regroup and reframe my brain to walk into virtually the next meeting. And so I think reminding ourselves that we don't have to, it's such a great point you made. We don't have to powerhouse through it. Like most of us, we're not solving for world peace in our daily efforts. We're doing great work, right? We're doing great work and we're helping organizations and we're coaching and we're implementing, but we're not solving for a nuclear peace treaty. So taking that 5 or 10 minutes is super, super important between. So Wendy, two last things and then we'll close. Who inspires you?
This question, believe it or not, is always one of the hardest ones for me. There's the public figures like Madeleine Albright. I mean, she worked her way up. She had kids and went to school at the same time, like me, right? And she did all this. So seeing someone like that always inspires me. But I think the people that inspire me the most are the women who are out there hustling every day. The women who are like, nope, I'm going to make this work. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do, and they're juggling, they're doing it all in high heels. Now it's flip flops, right? Thank
Right?
goodness. Um, and who have the courage to do what they need to do, even when, and especially when they say, you know what, I can't do that today.
Right.
That inspires me. It's like, oh, she got away with saying that. I want to be able to say that.
Right, right, right. That no, that selective no, right?
Right.
Or not yet, not today. Maybe not no, but just not today.
I love that. That is an excellent point, because first of all, no is a complete sentence, but maybe it's not a hard no. Maybe it's a not yet. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, not yet. Maybe tomorrow, maybe not.
Right.
Depending on what's on my plate already, right?
Exactly.
Wendy, it's been great to have you. How can people find you for all of your amazing HR services? Where can they get in touch with you?
Well, my website is www.structure, the number 4, success.com. There's a calendar link on and my phone number and everything is right on there. You are welcome to schedule a 20-minute discovery call with me if you just have a burning HR question that you're like, what do I do with this? Or how do I fix this? Since I said that is usually what I get. I'm on Structure for Success is on LinkedIn and Facebook, and just give me a call.
Awesome. Very, very good advice today. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been an honor, Christine.
Brightworks Consulting hosts this podcast and YouTube channel to spotlight the leadership around the world that is changing lives. Brightworks offers a myriad of consulting services in the public and private sector, to include diversity, equity, and inclusion solutions for any size company. You can find us at www.brightworksconsulting.com. We're honored to have Best Companies AZ as a presenting sponsor for this podcast. Best Companies AZ is your #1 source for regional employer branding. You can find them at www.bestcompaniesaz.com.